What's up, Everyday Blades? Man, it's collection update time. This is kind of a mini collection update. We're going to do my favorite 5, as difficult as that is going to be to do. I never look forward to a favorites video because it's so difficult to narrow it down. I usually end up cheating and picking more, but we're going to go through each one of these. There's 16 here. I went in my case and I picked out my favorite 16 knives. That wasn't too hard to do. But now we're going to narrow it down. So let's get started. This is the Concept Fenrir, and it's a weird name, but it is a great knife. Man, Concept is killing it this year. From the shape of that blade to the sexy grind lines, the hidden frame locks, running on bearings. Just, man, this knife took me by surprise. Milled titanium pocket clip. You just couldn't ask for much more than this knife. I love it. I did not expect to like it that much, but I do. Definitely in my favorites. Now, this knife. I don't think there's very many people that don't really like this knife. This is a Microtech stitch ram lock. It recently came out. Pretty difficult to get right now, but hopefully that'll get better. They did a fantastic job. I mean, just look at the texturing in that G10. It's just 100% Microtech. They just did a great job. This is what I prayed for whenever they came out with the automatic. I had a couple of the automatics, but I'm just not an automatic fan. This right here is, man, perfect. They couldn't have done it any better, I don't think. I have no complaints about this knife. It's definitely in my favorites. This one is probably my favorite Microtech, and definitely at the top end of my favorite knives. This knife kind of solidifies that Tony made the right choice when he decided to outsource some knives, because this knife is flawless. I mean, there's no issues with this knife. I love it. The fit and finish is killer. The action's killer. It's a beautiful knife. Of course, it's well designed, but has nothing to do with where they made it. But man, if they had not made this knife overseas, this knife would probably be over $1,000, and that's just puts it out a lot of our price ranges. Man, I'm glad that he did that. I wish everything was made in the U.S. Don't get me wrong, but there's some things that we just gotta, sacrifice on. The Mcneese Mac 2 3.5. Now, this one's an older one, and I like the older one. I had a newer one that was Magna Cut, and the milled had a different pattern on it. I think it had the frag pattern. I like this one better because I like the finish on the blade. This one's 20 CV. Now, I haven't seen a whole lot of these out there. I don't think they made a ton of them. I like this much better. I haven't seen any of the Magna Cut with that polished stonewash finish on it. The only thing I would change on this knife, and it doesn't even matter if you change it, is that thin titanium pocket clip. I wish it had a little girthier pocket clip. It just doesn't seem like it really goes, but it gets the job done. Does the trick. And it's just a fantastic knife. Made in the USA. Home run. Definitely one of my favorite knives. This is a beautiful knife. Shirogorov F95T for turtle. That's their turtle shell design. And the only issue I have with this knife is this on this newer one, they polished the flats here and then went back and scuffed them all up. Almost looks like they took it on a rough surface and just rubbed it back and forth. It's not super appealing. You can barely see it. It's super faint on this one. It's a lot worse on some other models, but I wish they would have just left that stonewash polished on there. But still, beautiful knife. Probably some of the best actions in the knife game. Shirogorov actions are just insane. Now, this one is my favorite Shirogorov. I've had this one the longest. I will probably always have this one. This is the Neon Zero. This knife is the perfect size. It's got a special place in my heart. I've always loved it. Both of these, this one and the other one, are M390. The action on this is just insane. They kill it. I put off a long time buying my first Shirogorov because they have loose bearings in there. And I just didn't want to deal with that. But man, when you get an action like that, it's hard to argue with it. This one's a little beat up, man. It's got dings and scratches. I carry this knife a lot. I like this knife a lot. This is way up at the top of my selections. The good old Factor. I have the new assisted one on order. It's supposed to be here by July. But this knife is just crazy innovative. I love it a lot. I think there's very few people who don't like this knife. This knife is phenomenal. And this one is actually the batch 2. This one is, I had the batch 1. This is a better knife. The fit and finish is a little better. The action is definitely better. My other knife, to get that to deploy, you had to really crank on it, man. And they must have improved the geometry or something, man. You just barely push it now and it cranks out there. So they did a great job with that. But this is really great innovation. They killed it. I'm really looking forward to see what they come up with in the future. This is if you don't know, this is a fully magnetic operated knife, and it's got the famous ding. Love that. Great job. The Winter Blade Co. Factor. All right. Wow, this one is the shock of the year. I thought I was buying average, cheaper knife and had no idea that I'd fall in love with this knife when it got here. Now this knife has some perks over a stock knife. They put the previous owner put skiff bearings in here. They put a milled titanium clip, which helped it out a whole lot because I have the other version in there and it's just not the same. It's the thumb stud version. I don't like it as much. I love this knife. I've been carrying this knife almost 3 weeks since I got it every day. It's just a fantastic. It's as close as you're going to get to that. I mean, it's nowhere near the same, but it's as close as you're going to get to the feeling of that. I mean, the scales are milled out extensively. This is the unsung hero of the year. And I wouldn't hesitate to say that so far this is my favorite knife of this year. The Asher Spiro. Oh yeah. So I'm an old Spyderco fan from way back. I love me some Spydercos. Get that smudgy off of the blade. That's the only downfall, but that blade is my favorite part of this knife. That polished stone wash that Tai Chung does, the Tai Chung factory. This is a great knife. You know, when I first saw this knife, I thought there's no way that I'll like that knife because I didn't care for the Spidey shift, and this is kind of shaped like that. But this is a totally different knife. Carbon fiber show side, extensively milled spring side. The clip is it's here or there. It's all right. At least it's not just an average spoon clip. It's got a sweet backspacer. The action is killer. Now, when I got this knife, the action was terrible. I mean, it was just horrible. I had to loosen the lock bar pressure, loosen the pivot, had to clean it had like grease in the, this one's running on phosphorus bronze washers, had like grease in the washers. It was just horrible action. Now you can see it's killer. Good thing I knew that it's supposed to be like that, or I wouldn't have known you could ever get it like that. This here, this is, let's see if I want to say that or not. I would say this is this is my favorite Spyderco ever made. I'll put it that way. I really like this knife, even more than the Sleece Bowie, and I really like the Sleece Bowie. This Paysan, the blade on this thing alone is just beautiful. The shine that comes off of that thing. I mean, I love that. I love the weight balance. The holes, Spidey holes are chamfered and polished. Got a custom pivot. I don't care for the spoon clip. I'm going to change that one out. Now, this is the new CQI version, and I kicked myself in the butt for getting rid of my original one, because the original one for me was better than the CQI version. My original one had the custom MXG clip or whatever on it, but this one it doesn't have lock stick. It has a sticky lock. I just hate that, and I've never seen that on a knife that has a lock bar insert. I've never seen a knife stick this bad that has lock bar insert. Now, when I got it, it was sticking bad. Did something crazy and relieved the lock bar. You never want to relieve the lock bar pressure on an integral knife. If you go too far, you're in a bind. It's very difficult to get that spring back, because you can't take this scale off and bend it the other way. So unfortunately, I was able to just relieve it a little bit to make it where the knife was tolerable. But yeah, definitely has lock stick. The person that sold to me forgot to mention that to me, but not a big deal. We'll get over it. This knife here, I mean, what else can you say about it? It's the best knife I have in my collection, hands down. The Oz Machine Company Roosevelt. Crazy milling. Super light. It feels like it's not even real. It's so light. It's perfect size, little EDC. This one has a Damascus. This has a, what do they call it? Zirconium. And then Damascus backspacer. This one is the older steel, the LC200N or whatever, the Z something. This is not the Magna Cut. Again, I like the finish on it better. I don't like the rough finishes. I like the smooth finishes. But that's just unbelievable. I see people buy these and they say, well, it wasn't for me. I'm like, how? How could that not be for you? That's the sexiest knife ever made on the planet. Anyway, I think maybe they were just buying it to sell it and make a little profit, but you know, that's America. That's what we do here. I've always had a special spot in my heart for the Shaman, Spyderco Shaman. I've always been a big Spyderco fan. With these, you see I use this quite a bit. It's scratched up. With these titanium scales on there, though, it's just a next level knife. I actually bought the Zerk scales on here. My God, this thing was a brick. It was so heavy. It was uncarryable. 9 ounces. Unbelievable. It does have the Zerk backspacer. It's adding quite a bit of weight, but it's completely manageable. Love this knife. Killer knife. Alright. Love Three Rivers Manufacturing. This is the Neutron. I love this little knife, man. I would carry this knife day or night. It doesn't matter. It'll get the job done and look good doing it. This is just a great design of a knife. It doesn't matter to me that the scales are easy to swap out, but I can see how some people that would be a bonus. It's just something cool, right? I love it with the titanium milled scales. It's super light, super thin and slicey. Action is great. It's not really drop shutty, but the blade is so super thin and light. It'd be very tough to do. Love that knife. Love that company. Love the Grimsmo Rask. God, what a great knife. You know, I watched a video. John Grimsmo said they had the Arius out, and they were looking to make a knife that was simpler, easier to make, and wasn't quite as glamorous and as great as the Arius. Something that was lesser. And they shortly found out that with those guys, that's not possible. They don't make anything that's lesser. Everything they do is going to be better than what they did before, because they have an unbelievable work ethic. I just love this one. Has the RWL 34 steel. I think most of them do. This one's number 1275. Just anodized titanium. It's a simple knife. It's super thin, slicey. The blade's not too thin. It's got some little bit of beef to it, but the whole knife itself is pretty thin. The action is just insane. Running on bearings. Even though I'm not a flipper fan, I love this knife. Damascus clip. It's just a great knife. I probably had this knife longer. Nope, I didn't have this knife longer than anything here. I've owned this model longer than anything on this table. But I sold it for a while and bought it back. Mr. Bill Koenig's Arius. Now, I love the Arius. The action of the Arius. It's a feeling like you can't get with any other knife. It's just beautiful. It's fidget knife of the year. I mean, it's fidget knife of the decade. It's a beautiful knife. Killer ergos. And I know you're feeling a butt coming on. It's not a butt about this knife. It's a butt. I love the Mini Goblin so much more. And I kick myself every day for selling it. I had no idea they weren't hardly going to make anymore. You never see them for sale. And when you do, they're outrageous. But if you're a knife collector and you've never experienced the Arius, you need to. It's a feeling of utter quality. Just pushing that lock bar over, feeling that jimping, it's just a feeling of insane quality. Love it. And last but definitely not least, the QSP large, or Penguin Plus, I believe it's called, in Mokutai with the Mokutai clip. This is the QSP Penguin's a great knife. The Plus is a great knife. The Mokutai is what makes me love this knife. It's just a beautiful, beautiful pattern. I have this one and the regular one in this Mokutai. It's beautiful. I believe Cavio puts this out. It's an exclusive for them. But anyway, now is the hard part. Now I have to eliminate this down to 5. The first one I have worked out. The first one is going to be the Penguin, and it's an amazing knife. I love it. It's just not in the class of these knives. The next one I'm going to bump is the Concept Fenrir. I love it, but like I say, it's in some tough company. The next one is probably going to, and I'm taking these in order right down to my favorites. It's probably going to have to be the Three Rivers Manufacturing Neutron. Amazing knife. It's quite a bit cheap, probably a third of the price of half these on here, but still an amazing knife. We're getting there. We got 7 more, or we got more than 7 to go, don't we? This is where it gets extremely tough. Gonna have to be the Spyderco Shaman. Amazing knife. Alright. I'm telling you, it's getting tough. The next knife is probably going to be... I don't even want to take this out because I love this freaking knife, but it's $125. It wouldn't break my heart to put this in the top 5. I tell you it wouldn't, but it wouldn't be realistic because it's just not as precious to me as some of these other ones. So now we're getting into some tough stuff. Okay. Next would be the Drunken. Alright. Wow. Next is going to be, believe it or not, the Microtech. Woo! Man, maybe we ought to do top 9. This is going to be tough. I think it's going to be the Mcneese. Alright, we're getting there. Wow. I think next would have to be the Factor. Yeah. Woo! What do we have? 4, 5. We have 2 left to eliminate. How? How do you eliminate anything from this group? You're going to think I'm crazy when I do this, but it's just the way that it is. One more. If I was only going to keep these 5, now this is what I'm going to eliminate it down to. There it is. That would be it. That's my top 5. Yes, there's a Spyderco in there. Sorry, guys. It's just the way it is. I love that knife. It's killer. And eliminating my favorite knife is easy. And I hate to say it because it's not the one I want to pick because they're impossible to get and they're crazy expensive. But that's just the way it is. That's the truth. There's my top 5. We did it. We eliminated from 16 to 5. It was not easy to do. It was pretty painful. I do have an honorable mention that couldn't make it up to this elevation because I appreciate that a company made a knife this great for this cheap. And they've actually made some little nicer versions, but honestly, you don't need it. This is the new. This one has a new ARP steel. I forget, ARP9, something like that. Steel, and I've been using it quite a bit on several other knives too, and it's a great steel. For a budget steel, it's killer, and I love button locks. Never been a fan of stainless steel scales, but it works on this knife. They do come, so Knife Center offers a titanium bolster with a micarta version with the RMP9 steel. And then there was also not an exclusive, but a short run done by CJRB on their website that was S35 and full titanium. I think it had a micarta insert. I would love to have one of those. I've posted several times, but they probably didn't make 200 of them, don't look like. Hopefully they're going to make some more, but this is my honorable mention. And I want to throw in the Asher. Those are the 2 best knives. There's no excuse for any knife collector not to own these 2 knives. And when I talk about the Asher, I have the thumb stud version, and it's got the rough titanium. I'm talking about this specific model, this specific version, with the smooth titanium, the smooth polished, stonewash polished blade. Yeah. Love it. With the thumb hole opener. I love the thumb hole opening. Killing it. So, there it is, guys. Thank y'all for playing tonight. I enjoyed it. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Have a good night. Please subscribe if you're not. God bless you and your family. Say a prayer for our country. Good night.